Hey, this is Brent.
Hey, this is Jordan.
What's up? This is Matt.
Hey, this is Shaun.
And this is the Digital Ascent Podcast.
Nice. What's on the docket for the first topic there, Matt? I'm letting you kind of run the topic list.
All right. So first thing we're going to talk about is the NPD, or National Public Data Breach. Before I start going, have either of you guys heard anything about this? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Briefly.
Whatever. Briefly.
Only
Brent?
what you talked about.
Only what I've talked about. All right.
Mhm.
So this is another one of those nasty data breaches. This one was for a company called National Public Data. The point of National Public Data is so people can basically run background checks, data checks on you. So they keep track of, names, social security numbers, phone numbers, email addresses, criminal records, driver's licenses, a whole bunch of stuff. And they had a little oopsie, as things tend to happen. This one resulted in 2.9 billion records, and I think a record in this case was defined as a row of data in a CSV file. That's 2.9 billion with a B. I guess the good news, if you call it good news, is actually a lot of little bits of good news sprinkled throughout this story. It only affects 272 million people.
Only.
So yeah, well, I mean, look at the first number, 2.9 billion.
Sure, right. I mean,
and now we're much smaller than that. We're 10%. This is good. I believe it is, primarily UK, US, Canada. So, if you're listening to us from, Australia, I think that you might be okay here in this case. The data does mostly contain people born prior to 2002. It is based on little samplings. It looks like it's overwhelmingly people who are deceased already. And for the people that have gone and checked on it, I did not check my data yet myself, but for I've read a few people have gone and checked on it, and Brian Krebs, from Krebs on Security, said, or went and checked on his stuff, and they said that the data is inaccurate anyway. So like I said, little bits of hope in there, So what can you do about it real quick? If your data if you feel like your data is in here, it probably is, and you should go ahead and freeze your credit scores. You can go to, what is the website? Hang tight. I'm going to pull it up right here. It is usa.gov/credit-freeze, and it'll give you some instructions on how to freeze your credit. I highly recommend you do this type of stuff. Doing that type of stuff will stop data breaches. What Brian Krebs had said in his latest article is that, let's see. He said, the point is, if you're an American who hasn't frozen their credit files and you haven't experienced some sort of new account fraud, the ID thieves just probably haven't gotten around to you yet. So, I mean, big takeaway is that your stuff's probably out there. You probably knew your stuff was out there already. If you didn't, then I, take this as, your warning. Before I go,
froze yours?
Yes, I have.
Okay. When did you do it?
Yeah.
As a result of this?
No.
Okay. Another incident entirely.
Yeah, I had
Okay.
I had an incident, and where somebody was like, hats off to Target. They called me out of the blue and was like, "Yo, did you open a credit card?" And so I called them back. I looked up the number and I was like, "Oh no, that's a legitimate number." And then I called back the legitimate number from whatever I Google searched, and lo and behold, somebody had opened up a credit card with a New Jersey driver's license. I do not have a New Jersey driver's license.
You have some property up in New Jersey, Mike?
I do not.
Matt?
I'm Matt.
Who's Mike? I don't know who Mike is.
I'm Matt. I'm not
Surprise
Mike.
fifth member.
Yeah.
Maybe we're trying to will Mike from chat to get back into chat.
Yeah, there we go. No property in New Jersey. Thankfully it was pretty painless for me. They had used somebody else's bank account information attached to the my driver's license, and so I wasn't charged the $900 for the whatever ridiculous stuff that they bought.
Interesting.
Cool. So, all right. Any questions you guys have about like the meat of the what happened before, or like what was there before I get into like the timeline and nitty gritty technical details about like how this happened?
I mean,
silly.
I'm
Timeline's
curious.
silly.
You mentioned a CSV. Is it is that what was specifically leaked, or what? How, I guess I'll leave that question there.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So we'll cover that. I actually don't know the answer to that, but I think the answer might be yes. So, and we'll get to the why. So, how did this happen? Well, allegedly, hackers, like there was like rumors that this data had been leaked back or had been stolen by a hacker named SXUL, back in December 2023. So back in April, the data allegedly goes for sale on breach forums for $3.5 million. I don't actually know whether it's sold. I wasn't able to find that. Yeah. So like, you know, they say they have data, yada, yada, yada. It goes for sale. I do not know whether it was sold. On August 6th, the data goes for free on breach forums. Somebody was just like, here's my 2.9 billion record file. Here you go. So there's the CSV for you. And so by the time, you know, it comes to us, it is the CSV. We still don't really know exactly what happened, but there are some clues out there on the internet. For instance, there's this other website called recordscheck.net that is owned by the same person who owns the National Public Data Company and website. And their websites look really, really similar. And up until August 19th, there was this zip file that was sitting on like the website's homepage that had all of this data in it with a 6-digit password that was like a commonly used passphrase. You know how it is, a small company. You start out, everybody uses the same passwords because everybody knows everything. Well, somebody, I guess, at some point in time decided to use this website as a place to store this file and then encrypt it with this like reused 6-digit passcode. So, how was the data leaked? We don't know for sure. You know, the theory at this point is that this file right here was on the National Public Data website also, and was, you know, basically downloadable and available for anyone who could guess the password. So, when did that? So, and let's see. The last thing is that it looks like National Public Data waited until August 12th of this year to notify. So, you know, it's like 9-10 months for breach. No big deal.
Just a little bit of lag time.
Did you see Mason's comment? If this database is inaccurate, wonder if it's generative AI generated.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah. Maybe they got like a smaller data set and they were like, let's go ahead and pump those numbers, baby.
Pump those rookie numbers. We gotta get those up.
Well, you know, man, Mason, realistically though, like some of it you could like just script out. So like you could just script, you know, populate the social security numbers. And I guess you could just like be like, yeah, please give me some street names and addresses and put them in there too. And I don't know, maybe that's a good point though.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that market is saturated with crap like that now.
Probably lots.
Probably lots.
I never even thought about that side of it, but it's like, hey guys, I've got this really cool leak of this data, and it's like it's absolute bullshit. It's all AI generated. You
get like 10 good rows, and then you make 1,000 good rows, and you release your 10 good rows, and you say, "Ooh, look at my 10 good rows here!" And you know they plug them in, beep pop, and make a $3 purchase or whatever, and then you sell them garbage.
Yep.
Well, man, there's a problem with that. So like, I'm a bad guy. Somebody comes on there saying that they have, you know, hot stuff and they have like a little bit of proof, but I've never seen them before. Am I going to pay, like, how much money am I going to pay for that? Right. The answer is not very much. I don't care how many rows you have, right? Because you have no reputation. So It's like my understanding is that those from like what I've gathered from like listening to Darknet Diaries basically and like other like similar things is that a lot of those underground networks operate on trust. And so there's some amount like if like you produce data, if you produce trash data, then you'll get a reputation for producing trash data and you'll never make the big sell, kid.
Even thieves have a code of honor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense.
By necessity. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions about this? Is ridiculous. For the record, I just wanted to just say if this is real, like I got this information from Krebs on Security. He's a fantastic like cybersecurity, like investigative journalist. I've followed him for years. If you don't, then you probably should if you're into cybersecurity. This story that he has about this like massive multi-gigabyte file with everybody's public data, like everybody's data in it. Sorry, I'm getting heated. Everybody's data in it being protected by this like totally unacceptable password. I feel like they even said the password was in the website somewhere. I'm sorry, I don't have the data. Like, I don't have it in front of me, so I can't just be like, that's what happened. So maybe it didn't. And, but man, it's so frustrating. Like, how can you be so irresponsible?
Man, but here's the deal. That stuff is so rampant.
Where's my litigation?
It's so rampant amongst like all businesses. Every single one that I've encountered or touched, for the most part, I won't say all of them, but have had something like that.
Not that level of bad, bro. That's
not that level of bad.
That's so
the
bad.
The negligence is still there. Like whether you scale it up or down, I mean, the negligence is just there because you had some dude do it a long time ago, or it worked back then and it doesn't now, and so like you can't. I agree that you should vet those things periodically to make sure that they're good. But I mean, do people actually do that seriously?
I do.
I would say no. They should, but they don't.
I seriously go, like, I try to cover, I'm sure I'm not perfect, but I try to be as thorough as I can. I set up lots of routine checks. I went and checked today. I have 60 recurring tickets that like happen between a daily and like yearly basis. I'm adding to it all the time. I bet by the end of the year, I have like closer to like 80 because I'm always adding those routine checks in there so I can consistently make sure I'm going back, be detail oriented, and people who really care are doing stuff like that.
Oh no, I agree. People that really care, but on average, how many of them are there versus not?
Yeah, that's pretty rare.
And at a large scale, is that scalable, right? Unless you have a whole team, and then you introduce the human variable, right? So again, as it scales, as it gets bigger, it's like, well, it's not as thorough. The walls get cracked. So I'm not excusing it. That's not the point. But it's more of a, okay, it kind of makes sense to me at least that, okay, this one thing somebody forgot about or whatever. I don't know. It's just, I've seen it so many times that I'm not shocked by it anymore, I guess.
It happens.
Desensitized. Maybe that's the word.
No, you're right. I should probably offer some more grace. Things happen. This sucks. Right.
Oh, it's still astronomically terrible. Like it's not that
bad.
It's a good thing, but at the end of the day, like, I mean, it happens.
Man, it really highlights the need for a better system than like the social security number and how incredibly archaic. Just like I authenticate with something I know is like it. I mean, man, can you think of a better argument for why something isn't an optimal like method anymore to be like I control this life basically. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So devil's advocate, because that's how I play my life, is devil's advocate.
I've heard you say this.
How do you go about changing a system that has been around for that long? Like genuinely, like how would you even begin?
I think that you get people who are smarter than me in a room, and then you ask them that exact question. Hey, maybe include me also, but only so I can learn.
Only
Right?
so I'm just here to learn. That's it.
Yeah, like I mean, like
you guys
maybe
figure it out. Tell me
No,
when
I
you're
mean,
done.
look, I mean, I'm willing to contribute, but I mean, I think that you can get better people than me that are like know more about the system and can like really and like more about like whatever. I mean, I'll have ideas too, I guess, but probably not like the best in the country. I'm not that much of an expert on like why
You
social
gotta
security
so like
numbers
the
suck.
man hours and the money and
Yeah, man, you're talking. I mean, this is big. This is my like a presidential mandate is to overhaul the social security number to identifications as an identification method system. And
what do you do with the retroactive stuff? Like, how do you retroactively, like, sure, you could do net new and just let it like go.
yeah, everybody
But-
gets issued a new social security number that may have been used by somebody else in the past. Good luck differentiating which ones are new and old. Have fun.
I mean, I could see him pulling some type of thing with like the real ID, where it's like an additional layer on top of the archaic layer. I don't know what that would be, but
What, like
you
2FA, but for your social
right?
security.
Yeah, I mean, really, yeah.
I mean, that's the
silly as
answer.
That, yeah.
No, I mean that's the real answer is that we need to add a something you have or are.
Yeah, and you'd have to go in all social security numbers are essentially null and void until you go through some type of validation process and you tie this additional layer of security on top of it. And now it will run through the system again. But prior to that, once they flip that switch, that social security number can't do anything. You can't apply for any credit, can't do anything. It's just locked.
So would it okay,
guys,
we're going down an absolute rabbit hole.
Mark my word. Hey, no, I got one for you.
We're engineers and we're solving the
We're
problem
solving the
right
problem.
now.
I was doing this earlier. I was troubleshooting a high priority ticket earlier, and like there was a complete rabbit hole that I went down, and the person looked at me and they said, "This isn't the problem. You're engineering for something else that you need to recenter." And I was like, ooh, yeah, engineering brain is a real thing where you're like, oh, I need to like solve this very minute portion of this issue before I can go move. It's like, no,
it's harder to turn that off than it is just to go ahead and start solving for the problem.
Oh, dude, I know. It's so hard to turn it off. It's weird. I don't know. It feels like everybody does it. That's an engineer too.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of this. To answer your question, what do I think? My personal belief is that we will almost certainly end up with some sort of biometrics. That will be like somehow like for things like cars and for like hard credit checks and stuff like that, it'll somehow like the real big stuff, it'll be biometrics.
Neuralink?
I sure hope not.
I did that strictly to trigger you.
Yeah,
that was the only
Mason
reason I
says
said
sounds expensive. Okay, I challenge that. How much does it cost to get a fingerprint reader as a USB dongle or on a computer? I would argue every laptop I've owned, my laptop has it built into its power button now, right? Fingerprint readers are biometric, and they're attached on almost everything that's mobile. My phone has it. Hey,
are they versus like a state of the art one though? Like, could we do like a mold of like, I don't know, whatever, some type of rubber and heat it up and fake about a fingerprint on these things? Like, I've not tried it with my laptop, but could I? I don't know.
I think you can do some of that stuff. What if you use like cell phone technology instead? Everybody has a cell phone. Almost every cell phone can do biometrics at this point, and almost every cell phone can do tap to pay. Why can't you tap to pay biometric?
What about man in the middle? I mean, you're still
I don't know, man.
Like, you're still introducing the risk because it still has to digitize the actual biometric. So if you can get the actual signature that it's pulsing and replicate it,
then you can just do whatever you want whenever you want.
Whatever you want. Like,
I don't know. Again, why don't you encrypt it, bro? What if you did normal encryption algorithms and you use those?
We're engineering
you can't see it, but Shaun just gave me like, and I don't know, raises eyebrows. He ain't got nothing to say here.
We'll have quantum computing by that point, so whatever.
Yeah, there we go. New encryption. All right, off the encryption stuff, off the ridiculous conversation about
This took a
biometric
wild turn.
social
I'm here for it,
security
though.
number.
I'm here for it.
We're gonna take a little dip into gaming. Talking about the new game Black Myth Wukong. I shouldn't be leading this topic because I don't know much about the game. I know it broke some records here. I've got 2.2 million concurrent players, which beat out Power World for most concurrent players on Steam. It did not beat out PUBG, which holds the record at 3.2 million. I was surprised when I read that. I didn't realize that game was like that popular, especially with it costing like $30 for its perma instant or perma early access status. I guess it's probably 1.0 by now. But it was in early access for a long time.
You talking about PUBG?
Yeah, PUBG.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Anyways, so it broke some records. I've seen like multiple articles saying this really shows that Chinese studios have broken into the AAA RPG space and so on and so forth. I didn't realize that was like a thing that they weren't doing already. I guess maybe I'm just ignorant. You guys got any thoughts on that?
I think a lot of that market was mobile gaming, I thought.
Yes.
A lot of mobile
This is true.
gaming and a lot of cookie cutter Eastern RPG or MMO RPG sort of stuff that doesn't typically make its way over our way because we just don't give a damn to grind our life
What was
away.
Lost Ark? You remember Lost Ark?
Lost Ark was
Korean.
Korean.
Korean?
Yeah.
Korean.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
another
Not
instance
like-
of games like that taking a very long time to come over to us.
Speaking of that, you know what game I hated? I'm just gonna throw it out there. New World. Terrible game. I'm sorry.
Are you
That's
sour? Like,
Yeah. I'm a little sour about it. Okay, that game was bad. I guess I enjoyed my time hanging out with everybody online. That was a good time. And those were some interesting people. Watching Chris basically like overthrow that guild that he was accepted into.
mhm.
Yeah, that was amazing. So we get on.
That's typical.
All right, so we get on this game. This is a good story, guys. So it's off topic, but it's a good story. So we get on this game, New World. Terrible game. Don't play it. And you know, we find
I think
this
it just
like,
released on consoles.
did it really? Don't buy it. Whoever's listening, don't do it. And we're playing, and it's like me and Chris. I feel like Brent and Shaun. I don't remember whether you were along for this one. I feel like
I
you
was
maybe.
not. I never.
Yeah,
never
I
got
feel
into
like
the
you
New
did
World
not.
phase.
Yeah.
I did. I tried Black Desert, but
Yeah, Black Desert, no good. And so it was my first like real MMO experience, and I'm doing it. I'm hanging out with this guild of people who I haven't met, and like over the course of like a month or two, Chris goes from like member to like voting out the person who was originally leading the guild. And like basically throwing a revolution. I'm watching this whole thing happen. He tries. I think it actually failed.
I think a better word would be coup.
Coup. Yeah. Well, it was an attempted coup.
No, it ended in that guild or that
it was
company.
fractured.
It
right?
ended in that company having like 6 people in it, and everybody went to the new company.
Is that what happened? Yeah, there was a new
Yeah.
company. I found out that this had all happened because I logged in one day and it was like, you're kicked out of the guild. And I was like, what? And then I like got on Discord and it was like, you're not welcome in this Discord server anymore. And I was like, oh, I didn't do anything, man, like at all. Like, I
just
literally
waited
said
6
nothing.
hours in the queue to play this game, and now I got kicked out of my guild.
I can't play. I can't. What's going on here? And yeah, I think Brent's right. We had a bunch of people end up in the other one. So maybe it was a successful coup. He didn't get the name though. Just the people.
Mm,
What do you do?
yeah.
Ridiculous stuff.
So I've seen some gameplay of Wukong. I kind of dug into it because that genre and also the art direction and overall theme is something that I think is super, super cool. And I gotta say, it looks pretty stellar. Like, from what I've seen of the gameplay, it has really smooth mechanics, from what I understand. The graphics are gorgeous. The enemies are super unique, and it derives a lot of that lore, like very, very heavy lore from that setting. So I think it's I want to. I'm waiting because I have so much other crap to play in order. to
Someone's
get through.
already modded Goku into it as well, so
Oh,
that makes
I'm
it
sure.
even better.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, so
ridiculous.
that's actually interesting because there's correlations between the two.
Yeah.
So
Yep. there
Really?
it is.
yep. Yeah. So Goku is based off of the Monkey King, which is somewhat related to Wukong as well. So the whole power pole that Goku has, the staff that Wukong has. Goku has a tail. Wukong's a monkey. Like,
Yeah, it's very fitting.
it's super fitting. So, yeah, there's definitely some crossovers, but I mean, it's definitely on my list.
Not for the faint of heart either, though. From what I understand, right? This is a
No.
Souls-like game, right?
Souls-like, yep. So if
Really?
if you're a fan of played the boss enough times to learn the pattern and not die, this is your game. It's like Sekiro. It's like, Elden Ring, all that stuff.
And your liquid cooling of your console, your PC is fueled by your tears.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
Just have a little pipe that runs right from your
you
eye,
just
right?
suck it
into
up from the tear
cooling
duct.
system.
I died again. Making
There
that
goes
run
all my
back to pick up your
souls.
little orb, your souls,
Yeah.
XP, all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That's,
that's awesome. Though. That's on my long list of stuff too. But you know how that goes.
Yeah. Heard that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll pick it up one day, probably. I don't think it's for me right now, but one day I imagine I'll grab it.
Any other good stuff coming out of? I didn't follow Gamescom this year. I mean, I know that Little Nightmares 3 was there. I don't know if you guys played Little Nightmares 1 or 2. Really great game.
I watched it. I watched Ko play it.
Yeah, it's really cool. Dune Awakening was a nominee in a lot of these categories, which is great. What else was in here? Star Wars Outlaws was a nominee. I think it might have won something. I forget when I was looking through here. I think there's a new Monster Hunter game coming out as well, Wilds. I don't think it's out yet, right? Or am
No,
I
I don't
just
think it's out
completely
yet.
disconnected? That's cool. Monster Hunter is great. Pal World was a nominee for a couple of these. I'm looking through the categories now. I'm trying to refresh my memory a little bit. Some of these are indie games that I have never heard of. Creatures of Ava or Ava. I don't know what that is.
I mean, that's good.
No, it's great.
I'm a fan of the indie
Winner
market
of
anyway,
the best
as you've
PC
heard me.
game was Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
Ooh.
I am so excited for that game.
Man,
Well,
I
there
tried
you
to
go.
play it, but dead that was
There's-
medieval simulator. Like,
Bro, it is. It's fantastic though. You know, I mean, like you play Medieval Simulator and it's got the same fight style as Shiv 2 does. You know, you gotta like actually like, am I gonna swing at the head or the legs or whatever I'm gonna do here? And it's great.
Best mobile game, Genshin Impact.
yeah, of course.
And they actually had at least one other game of theirs that I know of in as a nominee, which is Endless Zone Zero. That's all Hoyaverse. Hoyaverse is another Chinese developer, at least as far as I know, that kind of runs the market outside of Tencent. Because I think that's one company that Tencent does not own is Hoyaverse. I could be wrong. I don't know.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, I don't think they own Hoyaverse. Hoyaverse has just about like every anime-ish mobile game that actually most of them are cross-platform because you can play it on the PC too. My kids go in and out of Genshin Impact. They like that just because of the anime and the stories, and it's that over-the-top Eastern kind of influence stuff. It's just very, very artsy. But the animation stuff is great. Like these are great developers. If you're into that sort of thing, they're phenomenal. I just can't have but so much. But let's see. Stop Fast Eddie. Not a game, but trailer for Secret Level looked dope. Secret Level.
Wow, I haven't heard anything
I
about
know,
that.
man. I'm so out of touch. I'm kind of
I
purposely
am
out
too.
of touch. I'm gonna be honest. because I'm content with what I've got right now. And I just don't look at these things. And I should for the sake of this, for the sake of conversation here, but I'm just like, I can't keep getting hooked into all this
Well,
hype.
see, the problem is I see the games and I'm like, ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy. And then all of a sudden I have a Steam library full of crap that I've played 2 hours of.
Yeah.
And then it just sits there.
And see, I just got sucked back into World of Warcraft, so I have no time for anything else.
Oh, didn't they just released a new expansion, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. This week, officially, Monday, The War Within just dropped, which is a 3-parter of a trilogy, the World Soul trilogy. So this is like an actual trilogy expansion pack series. This is one of 3 that they're going to be developing, dropping over the next, I think, like 6 years or whatever. Keep in mind now, this is a game that released in at least in beta form in 2004. And this game is still running and right now, and leading up to the expansion, and especially during the expansion, has like the highest player base count of like any MMO. Still smacking everything.
Right
it's
now?
It's wild.
Right now. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And still subscription based, guys.
I know.
I mean, what can I say?
The whole time.
Wow.
But that's what enables them to do a lot of the stuff that they do, though, truthfully.
And they still have an item shop. It's not pay to win. It's all cosmetic, but I mean, $20, $25 mounts, $20 transmog sets.
It's for the bling. It's for the bling, baby. You gotta have it.
Yeah. No. I mean, they do a lot of donation stuff and like charity stuff through that shop as well. You can buy a WoW token that is essentially the equivalent to a month of game time. But if you don't want to use it for a month of game time, you can put it in the auction house and you get whatever the current market rate is for that. I'm guilty of that. I've done that before because I'm not going to grind gold. If I don't have time to grind gold, I'm just going to spend $15-20 on a token, throw it in the auction house, and get me some in-game gold. So there's that. Yeah, I mean, they've done a lot of things wrong. They've done a lot of things right, but man, they have stood the test of time. Despite your feelings of Blizzard, because old school Blizzard had some problems. New school Blizzard has some problems. It's obviously Microsoft. Now it's Activision Blizzard, and then now it's Microsoft. So it's gone through a lot of change of hands over the years, right? It's changed a lot. But this damn game's still running, man. Like, it's still going. And this expansion pack here, both personally and what the media so far is, the consensus is this is like the best one in like a decade. If not longer. This might even go up as like the best expansion pack they've ever released. That's what a lot of people are hitting at. So they're still doing it, man. It's crazy.
Hey, I have another game mention, and then we can move on.
What we got?
Space Marine 2. Pre-ordered.
Pre-ordered.
No.
I was going to say you hurt Matt's feelings with that comment.
Like that actually hurt my soul, man. Why did you say those words?
Look, man, I am heavy into the Warhammer scene. I played the original game and I loved it, and everything I've tried to stay away from mostly all of the content. I'm going in like straight blind, and
I'm not mad at it.
So unbelievably excited.
That's comfort food for you, though.
That's comfort
like
food.
That's your thing. Like where WoW, I did not. WoW was not on my radar at all. I was like, I don't care about this new expansion. I'm setting this one out. It comes out. I'm like, I want this expansion. I bought the biggest damn package. I went in and pre-ordered, got early access so I could start playing Friday. And that's just how I am with that game. That game pulls me in whether I want to play it or not.
Yep.
So I'm there.
No. Bad.
Yep. That's how it is, man. Certain things. If like a new Back to the Future game or something like that came out, instant buy. I don't give a shit how bad it is.
There's certain things, there's certain themes that I'm just I'm gonna fork the cash out for it, man. I hate it. I'm breaking my own personal rule, which is I don't do that anymore. But this is the
pre-orders.
This is the one game that I want it.
That's why I bought Power Wash Simulator, because I heard that they were coming out with a Back to the Future expansion pack, And I was like, I'm buying Power Wash Simulator. I'd never
they
cared
have
about this
a-
ever. And I bought it and then bought the Back to the Future pack.
They have a 40K package. It almost made me buy it.
Right. I'm over there power washing a DeLorean, the train from part 3, the clock tower. I'm over there just power washing, man, for hours.
I'll be honest, man. That sounds really boring.
I had a great time doing it.
It's
Okay.
therapeutic.
Bro, just like go power wash your driveway then.
No, that's not fun. There's not a DeLorean out there.
Then you actually have to deal with the water and the soap.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
We got off on a tangent on that one.
Yeah,
but-
we got on a huge tangent.
All right.
Great.
Well,
Terrible.
we're gonna let's see. No judging power wash simulator. Oh, that's great. All right. So speaking of tangents, it's good to see you, by the way, or good for you to see me. I don't know. Good to see you in chat. There we
Good
go.
to be seen.
Good to be seen. All right. So we're gonna let Shaun get off on a tangent here. He's had some fun recently revolving around, I believe it's Azure Virtual Desktop and or perhaps remote desktop services. For those people who don't know, remote desktop services is like the old way where you set up a server and then people connect to it remotely and they get a little like personalized desktop or whatever on their server that's local. Azure Virtual Desktop is the same thing. I think I'm saying that right, but it's in the cloud. You don't have to like host your own server, and I think the big advantage of it is that it's supposed to be super scalable. Shaun, hopefully I didn't stick my foot in my mouth too badly there. Is that all accurate?
No, that's all pretty accurate. So really what I want to talk about is kind of the difference between and the struggles with RDS versus ABD. So, had some issues actually for a long time. RDS, depending on how you configure it and the disks and the profiles, it can be very, very wonky. And when it goes bad, it goes typically fairly bad, and hurts your soul, which it has done to me and others that I know very, very seriously. So Matt had it about right. So the difference between RDS is that it's localized, so you have control over it, and it's. Hold on, I had a list of pros and cons that I had pulled up, and I want to pull it back up so that I can.
He's serious when he's got a list of pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think
hurts
Shaun's
me
a
enough.
little salty on this. At
Mhm.
this
Yeah, it
point.
hurts me enough that I have to like actually get into the differences.
No
between
pros, only cons.
Only cons. No, so there are cons, right? So the difference between RDS and ABD at its core is for businesses cost, right? So with RDS, it's typically a either hosted environment or bare bones server. Typically it's virtualized, but the idea behind it is that it's localized, right? You have control over it, and it's an upfront initial cost of server infrastructure and making sure that you have the correct licenses. But that's kind of for both, really. But you have CALs or seats basically that you would assign per user, and you have to buy a certain amount of those. But with RDS, you can remote straight into it. Like you have another desktop, you can load apps on it, you can do all those things. But as far as the cost side of things goes, it's typically you purchase it, and then for around 5 years, as long as your servers are healthy and everything's good, you're good, right? You have the individual. So you can do RDS a couple different ways. You can have an actual RDS server singularly, or you can have a farm. So basically you have multiple virtual machines that act as a load balancing systems. What that means is when somebody connects in, they get redirected to a broker. That broker says, hey, I'm going to make sure that all these servers that we have in here actively move around users so that the overall utilization doesn't tip the scale in one way or the other, right? Now, here's one of the cons to RDS. Typically, when you build these things out, you build them with room for growth, right? But thing is, scalability is kind of rough. So when you run out of stuff, whenever you run out of limitation, it ends up turning into a bit of a problem, because now you have to go, okay, well, I have to upgrade RAM, or I have to, CPU, whatever. Whereas AVD does not do that. So AVD is a lot more scalable, right? You say, ooh, I want this size VM. Ooh, that's not enough. Oh, I need more storage. Okay, throw storage at it, right? Now, the other end of that with AVD is that it's more expensive, right? You're paying month to month. And as you utilize more stuff, your recurring monthly cost goes up. But going back to RDS, if your stuff goes down, you are down, right? Like there's really no way to get around it. Like it is. And as I experienced this week, you're hard down. Like there's no, until you get it back up and running, these virtual desktops basically don't work. So any applications that are solely running on an RDS don't work. If people are using thin clients or, workstations configured as thin clients, they don't work. So redundancy is also kind of part of that built-in cost for AVD, which is something that I really enjoy because you can configure it in such a way that, well, let's say RDS goes down. Okay, cool. Well, that's all right. We can still access it, or you could access AVD in multiple different ways. It's not so localized to your environment. So I like the cloud-based portion of Azure Virtual Desktop. I like scalability. Licensing is included, in your Microsoft 365 portal. So that makes it nice and convenient, though I think nowadays those can be managed through Office 365 now as well for the RD side, but still. You get a little bit more monitor experience with it. I think that remote desktop can be a little funky sometimes with having to like remote in here and do this and like connect when AVD is pretty straightforward. And since it's managed through Azure, you can integrate more things like let's say published apps and things like that. You can kind of manage it all in one pane of glass instead of having to hop around. Though I have to give the pros for RDS. I have to do a justified assessment here, even though I'm heavily biased towards Azure. So on the flip side, there are things that can go wrong with AVD, right? You can have, it depends on how you want to set it up, but you can do geographically based situations with AVD, but again, costs more money. So while, it's in the cloud, you have less control. You can fine tune it fairly well. And if it does go down, you can go and fix it to like the nth degree. Whereas with AVD, there are some things that are out of your control. Though you could argue that's everything, really. Most importantly is cost. After the upfront investment, you get a good long run out of it, typically. So I'd have to say between the two, if you're comparing them like I am, if you want simplicity, if you want consistency, I would say, and if you want scalability, AVD is my preferred choice, and that's kind of where everyone is going in the market anyway. Truthfully, that's where I see a lot of this stuff going. But RDS, is if you want control and you already have a bunch of investments and you want to have that fixed cost that you can, amortization, or however you write it off basically for your business. You can use that, and it gives you some like known quantities rather than that consistent hit for the subscription side. So at the end of all this, I still prefer AVD. Had to add a little tagline at the end.
I would have never have guessed this is where
Really?
this was going.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I would have never known this.
I thought that was fair and balanced, for sure.
Well, thanks. I try to be impartial, but after this last week's adventure, that's forced.
So I do have a question. Which one of these things do you think requires more engineering time over like a 5-hour period, over like a 5-year period?
More engineering time?
Yeah. So, we talked about how much it costs to get the hardware and the recurring costs, but realistically, in my experience, hardware servers just tend to screw up more. I don't know why.
So
they just do.
Yeah, I really, once you set it in ABD, my experience has been, unless there's
an update,
you can run into issues.
You can run
into issues, but for the most part, you get less wonky issues.
Yep.
So with the hardware, like you have pass through and some other stuff that, and also like,
well, the physical management layer too, though. You got to have somebody maintaining that hardware.
Man, it's just
Where on AVD, it's like, oh, okay, I'm on vacation right now in Hawaii, but I'm going to log in and fix this for you.
Yeah,
you can do it anywhere.
From anywhere, right? Like that's the other thing too, is that manageability is because it's baked into Azure. As long as you can sign into Office 365,
the redundancy features too. Oh, yeah, I've got it. I've got it in the East. I want it to bounce this to Central.
Yep.
When something goes wrong
with RDS, if you don't have that physical, actual like data center or whatever else other RD farm that you have to also upfront cost, well, you're kind of hosed. So I think you can get really into the weeds with all the different layers with RDS, whereas with ABD, it's a lot more single pane. That's been single pane of glass. Sorry, I should finish that. So that's typically been my experience with it.
A little bit more single threaded too, though. I like the pane of glass reference, but also like you are and some people consider this a pain point with this. You're relying on one vendor as opposed to your whatever circuit you've got running to your data center or your server room. Okay, my ISP went down. Now I'm relying on the secondary ISP. It's slower, but you know what I mean? Like you have all these vendor relationships when it comes to hosting your own stuff. If you're going the Azure route, or maybe you're even going the AWS route, because they have a solution too.
Yeah, they do.
You're putting all your eggs in the same basket, but it's also very firmly their problem at that point.
Yep.
And I mean, they have, depending on how much you're willing to pay, they've got service level agreements and whatnot that you can set up. And then, of course, if you don't like your data being somewhere else, that's a big concern for a lot of people. A lot of people are more than willing to spend the extra money to have their own hardware and their own location with their own circuits, just to know that my data is there now. It's not in the cloud. Big Brother's not looking at it. They're not going to seize something because they can seize it because we don't own it. You know what I mean? Like whatever, all these scenarios that you've heard about in the past decade, 15, even 20 years of moving data away. I mean, I could still see an argument for both, but I truthfully agree. I think the future is surely AVD or whatever iteration it takes, because we all know Microsoft changes stuff on a pretty much weekly basis. So,
well, that's no way. Part of the interesting argument, I think, is really just the type of business that you're doing, right? Like it depends on your type. Well, who owns the business, but also the type of business that you're doing, because that kind of dictates it, right? When you have a lot of regulatory requirements, it can be difficult to go, well, what does Microsoft say about this? Rather than, oh, I know all of my individual customized GPOs and everything else that are attached to how this thing functions and where the data rests. You can go, yep, I know exactly where that is. So again, I've become a lot more moderate in my opinions on tech, solely based on use case.
Yeah. And a lot of that old experience, a lot of the people that are still in the game with many, a couple of decades of experience, if not more, under their belts, everything they've learned for the past couple of decades still holds true when it comes to RDS. It does not when it comes to Azure. This is a whole new thing. Yep. Some things are similar, just they're enough so like you, but they're not one-to-one. Enough to understand it, but not necessarily enough to call yourself like an architect within Azure. Sweet. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason why there's certifications around every single element of Azure. And that is because there's a top level where you can just kind of get it working, but there's a much deeper level.
There's a huge level, yeah.
That has all
absolutely.
those intricacies and whatnot. So I think that plays into it quite a bit too, man. When you've got resources that know one thing, it's like, am I going to retrain all these guys? Some of them may not even care to know this. I don't know. I mean, that's a struggle too, I think, is like the staff around it, or going outside of that and hiring a consultant firm, or having a whole other company that does just Azure, because there's tons of them around. Having them do that work. And that's another cost on top of it. It's like, not only am I paying for the Azure cost, but now I'm paying for someone to put it all together for me, because I have
paying for the expertise.
Yep. So I think there's still some almost like borderline like technical debt almost, because it's still so new. And I feel like if you're a net new company or a net new business, it makes a lot of sense to go ahead and consider Azure.
Yeah, just architecting from the ground up.
Just architecting from the ground up in there. But if you already have been, running a business for years with your own equipment, and that's just what you do, it's a much harder sell. And that's what I've seen in the space too. It's like you start having that conversation like, no. We've done it this way for the past 15 years. We don't mind the cost of the hardware. We understand that we're going to have to upgrade it, replace it every 4 or 5 years, whatever. They just get it. It's already in all their documentation. Their accounting already knows it's going to happen. It's already in their tech budget. Like they just, it's like you said, it's something they can predict. Where with Azure, I think a lot of them, they don't know. Is this going to change next month? Is this going to change when I renew the contract? And I'm going to be paying double the price for the subscription going forward?
Strong fear, and not unfounded one either.
Right. So I get it, man. It's a tough conversation to have if you're in kind of that sales role, especially, or even the sales engineer role, where you are trying to sell it one way or the other. Maybe you're not even trying to sell it one way or the other. Or you're just trying to do what you just did, the pros and the cons. You really find yourself teetering one way or the other heavily as the conversation goes on. I don't know. I think we're still a long ways out before it's like, this is the best practice. And I like something I read today, by the way, when it comes to best practices, is like, I feel like too many people use the whole best practice term. It's like, it's the best practice for now.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a day. That could be a week. That could be a month. It could be an hour. but we swing that term around so much. And
it's that false sense of security. I think it's like what it instills in people. I
think so. I think it's a safety blanket. It's comfort, but I think it can be the downfall as well.
Sure.
So if you're in that role in whatever company you're working in, don't just. I mean, it's essentially the same as using like a cookie cutter solution. Just because it works awesome for one company does not mean it's going to have the same return on investment that it's going to have, that it's going to do the same return with your company or whatever you're trying to apply it to. So I just urge some caution. That is, I'll plug this because this is something that I'm working through here. They make this evident in this book here, Making Work Visible, Exposing Time Theft to Optimize Work and Flow. Actually, really good book so far. I've not finished it. I just got it, but they make a point to mention that, and I quite like the argument against it. So,
that's good.
Shameless plug of something that I can't even fully vouch for yet, but so far I like the premise. It's been recommended.
You've gotten value for what you've gotten. It's still valuable.
Yeah, it's been recommended to me by a lot of folks in the industry, and I was like, well, I'll go ahead and give it a Actually, a vendor actually sent this to me. That's how strongly they felt about it.
Hey, a vendor doing something useful.
How
interesting is that?
Yeah, I've had me a little gift note and everything from Amazon.
So awesome. Look at that.
All right, guys, what we got left, topic-wise?
That was it. Shaun salty about WDS was the last one. Now we're on to our own pile of tears and salt.
It's RDS, Matt.
What'd I say? I said
W.
WDS. I said, yeah, I wrote W in the notes. I promise I know the difference. I know that RDS is for connecting to computers and WDS is for deploying them. I know this.
All right. I just had a crazy random thought, and forgive me since we're at the tail end. I got super close to the mic, and then my brain went, "What if we did an ASMR version of the stream, where we only talk like this the entire time?"
I don't think I could do it.
You don't think you could do it?
No, I think I would forget or like stop or get distracted or feel awkward. I don't know.
I would have to I'd have to drop the octave a little bit too.
And kind of talk like this a little bit,
Get rid.
Hey guys, welcome to Digital Ascent. How's everybody doing?
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I like that. Idea.
We'll see if
All
anybody's paying attention in chat.
Yeah, let's see if they actually pick up on it.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Ascent podcast. Check us out at digitalascent.tech and join us on Discord. Until next time, take care.